Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're opening up a really fascinating stack of sources.
They challenge us on some pretty fundamental questions. What's the real source of divine knowledge? How is salvation actually achieved? Yeah, big questions.
And maybe most importantly, we're diving deep into this powerful tension between, outward performance and what's genuinely going on inside. Inner sincerity.
Right.
Our mission is to analyze how these texts define purity. We're going to move from these grand cosmic declarations all the way down to a very intimate dinner table critique.
And it's that journey, I think, from the macro to the micro that makes this material so compelling.
Yeah.
You've got texts like Romans and Psalm 19 basically saying divine power, divinity itself. It's obvious just from looking at the cosmos.
Look, it's just out there for everyone.
A universal, inescapable kind of knowledge. And then, boom, we pivot really sharply to Luke, where Jesus is critiquing people fussing over ritual washing before a meal.
Okay.
It really shows that knowing something universally doesn't automatically mean, internal purity follows.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Starting big picture. The texts kick off by talking about how salvation even works, right? The mechanism.
That's right.
The gospel isn't just presented as information. It's a dynamic force.
Exactly.
Romans 1.16 frames it as the power of God for the salvation of everyone who believes. The power of God.
Yes. It's this assertion of universal availability, and it stresses that righteousness, that right standing with the divine, is revealed from faith to faith.
Right.
And that famous line, the one who is righteous by faith will live.
That's the conclusion, yeah.
It's foundational, and it hinges entirely on belief, faith.
But, okay, that raises a huge question, which these sources tackle right away. If salvation comes through believing a specific message, the gospel, what about everyone else? People who haven't heard it. And that's where the argument shifts to natural revelation, right?
Yeah, and this is where the stakes get incredibly high. It's really the linchpin for everything else.
Okay.
19 and 20 argue that what can be known about the divine? It's always been available.
Always.
Because it's been clearly evident, perceivable in what he has made since the creation of the world.
Wow. It's a very specific claim. His invisible attributes, eternal power, divinity, are visible through the physical reality all around us. So the natural world itself, the complexity, the sheer fact that things exist, that's like a constant public announcement about the creator.
That's the idea. It's inescapable. If you exist, you have access to this basic information.
So what's the implication, the consequence of this universal, obvious knowledge? Well, the consequence is pretty devastating, honestly, and that's why it's so foundational here. The text just states it flat out. As a result, they have no excuse. No excuse.
None. The argument is that nobody can claim ignorance about the basics of divine power because God made that truth evident to them through their environment.
That's a strong theological claim about accountability.
It really is. And that point about the environment constantly speaking, it gets this beautiful poetic echo in the Psalms.
Ah, right. Psalm 19. It emphasizes this announcement isn't limited by language or anything, is it?
Exactly. Psalm 19 reinforces it beautifully. The heavens proclaim the glory of God, and this message, this proclamation, it travels everywhere. It says, not a word nor a discourse whose voice is not heard. Through all the earth, their voice resounds, and to the ends of the world, their message.
So the universe is just constantly broadcasting data about the divine, a global, nonverbal truth transmission.
You got it.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting for me. If God's knowledge is so plain, so available, why does the text talk about God's wrath being revealed?
Right.
This is where human decision comes crashing in, according to Romans 1.19. Okay?
The wrath is revealed against those who knew God because, as we just said, the world shows them.
No excuse.
Right. But they actively fail to honor him or thank him. The text says they suppress the truth by their wickedness.
So instead of glorifying what was obvious, they chose
What?
intellectual vanity.
Essentially, yeah. They became vain in their reasoning and their minds became senseless and darkened.
That sequence seems really important. Reject the truth, and then your thinking gets messed up.
Immediately.
Yeah.
It leads to a failure of intellect, of perception. They stop thinking straight. And this moral blindness leads directly to that specific degrading exchange the text talks about.
The exchange. They claimed wisdom, but ended up becoming fools. Tell us more about that trade, that fatal exchange described in Romans.
Yeah, it's portrayed as the rejection of the infinite for the finite. They exchange the glory of the immortal God, those invisible attributes, the eternal power.
Right, for manufactured images, idols. The text even lists specific created things, likenesses of mortal man or of birds or of four-legged animals or of snakes. Wow. That's presented as the absolute bottom, theologically speaking, swapping the truth of God for a lie.
And worshiping the creature rather than the creator, that's the core of it.
So the problem isn't just like passive ignorance, it's an active internal rejection of truth that was universally available.
Exactly. And the stated consequence of this huge cosmic rejection isn't just, thinking wrong. It's ethical ruin.
Ethical ruin? How so?
That's the link we really need to grab onto here. Because they rejected the evidence of the Creator, the source says God handed them over to impurity through the lusts of their hearts.
Okay.
This slide into immorality is directly connected to that failure to give glory and thanks. Rejecting the universal truth about God leads straight to a moral collapse.
And it's rooted in uncontrolled desires, lusts.
Yeah, and resulting in a mutual degradation of their bodies.
Okay, that sets up a necessary bridge, doesn't it? We've talked about this big cosmic ethical breakdown, creator swapped for creature.
Mm-hmm.
Now we shift gears pretty sharply to Luke 11. And that exact same tension, external show versus internal corruption, plays out, like you said, in miniature, at a dinner table.
Yeah, the context is just everything here. Jesus gets invited to dinner with a Pharisee.
Right, a group known for being meticulous about ritual purity.
Extremely meticulous. And the host is described as amazed. Why? Because Jesus didn't do the expected prescribed washing before the meal.
And this wasn't just about washing hands, like getting dirt off.
No. This was a critical religious act. It was meant to signify spiritual cleanness before you eat.
Okay. And Jesus uses this apparent ritual failure as a teaching moment, right? To deliver a really stinging critique. Scaling is the word. It connects directly back to that moral blindness we saw in Romans. He speaks right to the Pharisees. You Pharisees, although you cleanse the outside of the cup and the dish, inside you are filled with plunder and evil. Wow. He's calling out this radical act of hypocrisy.
The image is so visceral, isn't it? The cup looks shiny, perfect on the outside. But inside the vessel itself, it's full of wickedness. And the text specifically says plunder-like, stolen goods, ill-gotten gains, greed.
Just pure selfishness packed in
Yeah, and Jesus uses this metaphor to challenge their whole worldview. He asks this killer question, and it echoes that creator assertion from Romans.
What's the question?
Did not the maker of the outside also make the inside?
Oof. That's powerful. If the creator made the whole person inside and out,
right,
then just focusing on the external stuff, washing hands, polishing cups, is like willfully ignoring the standard the maker actually requires.
It's a personal, localized version of that same vain exchange from Romans.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The focus got swapped. Outside over inside. Precisely.
Yeah.
But okay, if the inside is filled with plunder and evil, what's the fix? What's the solution Jesus offers? It's not, a better ritual bath or more soap. No, it's something totally different. Direct, practical, and honestly, pretty counterintuitive, he says. But as to what is within, give alms. Give alms. Money or aid to the poor.
And behold, everything will be clean for you. Generosity. That's the path to inner purification.
That's the brilliant inversion right there. If the heart is full of plunder and evil, which is basically the pileup of greed and selfishness.
Okay. The only thing that can truly cleanse that specific kind of corruption is its polar opposite.
Yeah.
Giving away what you have. Generosity is the antidote to greed.
It acts like an inverse operation. It forces the heart, which was all about getting and keeping for itself, to turn outward in genuine mercy.
That idea, transforming the inner life through genuine outward action, that fits perfectly with some of the reflective prayers in our sources, doesn't it? It really does. It brings to mind that ancient, desperate plea from Psalm 51. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me.
Yeah, the acknowledgement that the heart is the real battleground. And it needs radical transformation, not just a surface polish. And the synthesis here is just striking. All these texts seem to agree. Real purity isn't from performing outward rituals like the washing. It comes from prioritizing sincerity, mercy, and love. The core message seems clear. God wants sincerity more than show and compassion more than perfection. And the cleansing happens when that internal plunder, that selfishness, is actively, consciously turned into alms, replacing the inner evil with outward good.
But, okay. To do that kind of internal surgery, to root out the plunder and actually cultivate sincerity, you'd need a pretty powerful tool for self-examination, right? You definitely would. And that brings us back to the power of the divine word mentioned in Hebrews 4.12. Okay. How does that fit in?
Well, that passage integrates perfectly because it describes God's word as living and effective.
Living and effective.
Yeah, and capable of penetrating way beyond the surface, beyond the external show we put on. It's sharp enough, it says, to specifically discern reflections and thoughts of the heart.
So if Jesus' critique in Luke is about the corruption hidden under the polished surface, then the word is like the diagnostic tool designed to use exactly that, to reveal where the plunder is actually hiding inside.
Precisely. It allows for that necessary internal scrutiny.
So wrapping this all together, what does this whole deep dive mean for you listening right now? We started way out in the cosmos, right?
Yeah.
Hearing this thunderous nonverbal declaration that means no one has an excuse.
The universal announcement. But then we saw the consequence of rejecting that truth. A darkened mind leading to personal corruption, greed, plunder. Yeah, the internal mess.
And the solution offered wasn't more rules, but this radical internal honesty, followed by the external action of generosity, giving alms from what's within.
And we kind of ended our journey with this specific demand, really, that you look inward. Ensure that your heart, which, remember, the Creator made just like the outside, isn't just polished, but genuinely clean.
Right.
The sources really suggest that acknowledging the Creator should inevitably lead to this internal transformation.
Right.
And that transformation shows up as generosity, not just, performing rituals correctly.
So if we connect that back to the big picture, the sources seem to say the greatest moral victory isn't about, say, not messing up a ritual detail.
No.
It's about reversing that first fatal exchange. It's about swapping the vain reasoning and the inward greed for genuine gratitude and outward giving.
That really gets to the heart of it. And it leads us, I think, to our final thought for you to chew on. Okay, if these sources are right, if true cleanness really comes from giving alms as to what is within, what's one hidden internal plunder in your own life? Maybe it's, resentment you won't let go of, or maybe some intellectual vanity, or just plain financial stinginess.
Yeah, something hidden inside.
What's one piece of that internal plunder that you could, perhaps starting today, transform into genuine, meaningful generosity? Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for diving in with us today.